Hello and welcome to today's webinar, InfraWorks 360. Plan, design, and engineer with real data in the real world in real time. This webinar is brought to you by Live Lab Learning, which is a subsidiary of Academic Corp, a wholly owned applied software company created to provide world-class training. This is Ed McKenzie, and I'm delighted to be your moderator today. Throughout our presentation, we encourage you to interact with us by typing in questions and comments using the questions pane. We will be answering questions at the end of the presentation. This webinar is being recorded and will be available to you online or to our YouTube channel. Please take note of upcoming events. Please join me in welcome today's speaker, Ken Driscoll.
Thanks and welcome to today's webinar. First of all, I'd like to talk about some of the events that are upcoming. There's going to be an event on December the 22nd in reference to Panzera, which specifically talks about the benefits of centralized storage to increase productivity. And then also the benefits of Autodesk maintenance subscription will be January the 7th and also January the 20th. And then on the 27th, there'll be a A360 team project collaboration that works the way you want. So some of the upcoming events, and you can contact Ed at any time in reference to the upcoming events at 404-564-1874. So today, again, we want to talk about plan, design, and engineer with real data. So the topic of today would be InfraWorks 360. So today, some of today's business challenges, strong competition, which often you hear about primarily focusing on winning business, increasing efficiency. So what is it that we really learn about that? Well, in today's economy, there are fewer projects, tighter budgets, constraints with winning new business that require, you standing out from your competition. So how are you going to differentiate what you can offer and what you can offer your prospects and existing clients? So there are specific concerns that we want to address in terms of how you work with money and also how you lose and capture new business. So what if you could create a model? What if you had the ability to create a model in the context of today's existing environment? Quickly explore multiple design alternatives, ensure making the right choice, and also give clients an option to choose the ability to reuse those chosen designs in preliminary engineering phases. So first of all, again, being able to create and visualize data-rich models. So whether you're using GIS, whether you're using CAD, whether you're using other file formats, you can all bring those data formats into InfraWorks 360. Also, being able to explore design alternatives, efficiently produce and iterate on accurate and realistic design proposals, then alternatives, then leverage them again for preliminary design. Then also being able to make informed decisions, using analytics, simulation to understand conditions and evaluate design proposals. And then also increasing product understanding, ability to share models with proposals and collaborators and stakeholders virtually anytime, anywhere, increasing project understanding and reducing costs. And also present design intent, realistic 3D context, in terms of accelerating approvals, what a site actually looks like when it's done. So, again, InfraWorks 360, it's a software that expands the ideal BIM, working and enabling infrastructure and building professionals really to go beyond creation, sketching, and visualization, all the way to engineering. So again, more quickly and easily engineer large scale preliminary designs in the context of an existing environment, extend your design capabilities, and then also expand project and stakeholder collaboration. Preliminary design and engineering is an important, often forgotten phase in really the life cycle of a project. So we want to be able to create an existing model, secure, publish, store, manage that large infrastructure model. So clearly you can see in terms of using existing conditions to inform planning and design concepts. Again, we want to be able to create those models, whether it's GIS, whether it's FDO, whether it's CAD data, or even shapefiles. So, really greatly being able to improve your ability to incorporate detailed data from CAD, 3D models, GIS, CityGML, raster design, allowing those existing conditions to inform the design concepts. So Autodesk Civil 3D models, Land XML, IMX, Mr. Sid files, ECW files, TIFF images, AutoCAD, Map 3D, Revit models, FBX, 3DX Max file formats are supported within InfraWorks 360. So there's an abundant amount of data that you can pull into InfraWorks 360. Clearly, some of the Autodesk formats allow you more frequent flexibility, but on a large scale, sometimes you're using multiple products to create one model. So all I'm going to do is kind of give a quick overview of some of the preliminary engineering design and context of what you can pull in with InfraWorks 360. So really being able to investigate underground or above ground utilities, again in the context of the real world environment. So again, InfraWorks 360 really has this interesting, intuitive user experience, get things done faster, quickly access the appropriate tools for the right type of work that you're performing. And there's going to be there's going to be some screen captures here, but really I want to be able to show you those in the demonstration. So creating stunning visualization proposals, better communicating concepts, and also visualize those concepts from the web and also mobile. And then proposals, being able to create infrastructure models that accurately and easily from industry-specific tools allow you to facilitate the identification of environmentally sensitive areas and important sites, whether it's a school, whether it's a business, whether it's a commercial building, how to help uncover the potential impacts that could delay a design process. And then improve stakeholder engagement. You know, once your story is ready to be told, now you can share these specific scenarios, whether it's via cloud, whoever the parties may be interested in looking. So InfraWorks also has a user's web browser, giving broader access to individuals to access the proposals that are created. And then being able to communicate that project's intent via a 3D model. So we're going to take a look at some of those things also. So then geographically, dispersed teams collaborate without traditional boundaries, anytime, anywhere in the cloud. And then collaboration in the cloud. You can see there's a couple models there, but not only can we publish to the cloud, but also manage large-scale models in the cloud, gain field and mobile access, real-time feedback scenarios, specifically generation in the cloud. And then there's some advanced design capabilities. InfraWorks also has 3 modules, one for roadway design, bridge design, and then also drainage design. So specific to roadway design, InfraWorks 360 helps civil engineers work on transportation projects allow you to explore, optimize project performance. And then with the bridge modeler, allows you to more effectively explore bridge designs, overall roadway designs, and also visualization and realistic civil structures. So we'll take a look at that also. And then last but not least, there's also a drainage previewer in InfraWorks 360. So those from the civil engineering realm for drainage design, for transportation projects, watershed hydrology, national state, USGS for state regression equations. So we'll take a look at that also. So all these vertical applications have to be used with InfraWorks 360, which includes 100 cloud credits per year. So as an example, being able to optimize a project, I'm not going to look at it here. I will show you in the demonstration, but roadway design for InfraWorks helps civil engineers basically in transportation optimize roadway. So we'll take a look at that also. And then better predict how alternatives, so quickly you can see, we'll just look at this quick little video and then we'll move on, how I can go from the west side of that site over to the east side of the site and show AASHTO standards in reference to some of my road design. So we'll take a look at that. And then also powerful intersection features. So the ability to streamline and explore how roadway design enables engineers to use early design concepts. So enabling you to lay out standard vehicles, turn radiuses, intersection layouts in terms of streamlining geometry. And then flexible editing tools for easy design changes. So we'll take a look at some of those too. And then integrated site distance and analysis. And then profile optimization, which we'll take a look at also. And then detailed and documentation, anything that I typically do here with Civil 3D in terms of a road or a surface or data that's pulled in can be pushed straight to Civil 3D for final design tasks in reference to providing greater continuity of information between InfraWorks 360 and all its file formats straight into Civil 3D. Okay, so we also have this bridge modeler. We're going to take a look at that. So heuristic analysis, girder bridge design, concrete bridge, really allowing bridge engineers to simplify, accelerate the focus in reference to the layout of girder and bridge design concepts. So we'll take a look at that also. So we'll take a look at preliminary bridge design and then also some of the functionality of the bridge modeler. So again, I don't like the PowerPoint to death, just going to show maintain more consistent data. We'll take a look at that in reference to the bridge modeler. And we'll also look at the drainage design for some of the civil engineers that may be on site. And then also, we'll take a look at what you can do in reference to bringing in Revit models, SketchUp models. So, I'm going to move on here. Just going to get to the demonstration. So we won't bore you to death. So, large-scale models, expand project and stakeholder collaboration, extend your design capabilities. We will get to questions in a second. Okay, so let me just minimize that. Make sure everyone can see my screen space. Okay, so down here at the bottom, and let's make sure everything's good. So down here at the bottom, I've opened up InfraWorks 360. So over here on the left side, you can see that you won't see a file edit view in reference to creating data like it's a CAD file. So InfraWorks runs on SQLite, which is a database. So one of the biggest assets in reference to InfraWorks is the ability to use the model builder. So what the model builder allows you to do is once I select the model builder, I can put in a specific area. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to type in a specific area somewhere in the United States. And then I'm going to define, so it zooms into that area. And if I look at this specific area. We have a bird's eye view that we can take a look at. So it just zooms in. And then I can define over 105 square kilometers of this model that I want to build. So as I zoom in, you can see up at the top right-hand corner, I just defined a specific area. And I'll just say Beaufort. And then I'll select create a model. So the data that is going to pull it in is going to be USGS elevation data, and then also Microsoft Bing Maps for imagery, and then roads and highways from OpenStreetMaps, and then buildings also in terms of OpenStreetMaps. So I'll go ahead and select create a model, and then it's going to say it's going to take up to 15 minutes. It's going to send me an email once that finishes. I'm just going to close that out. But what I want to do is kind of get into the product in terms of what you guys will see in reference to working with InfraWorks 360. So again, if we kind of take a look at the ideal of being able to go out anywhere on this earth and define a specific area that we can pull in as our model, and this is going to take a second, and then bring the existing contours, aerial photography, street roads, and building asset. That right there gets me a quick jump start in reference to my concept. So InfraWorks is opened up, and as you can see, it's just brought in an actual 2D, if you look at it, image. So the beauty of working with InfraWorks 360 is not only has it brought in an image, it's brought in the topo data also. So you have 3D topo data that is brought in. So right now, this is just a simple model that I'm working with, that I've brought in. One of the other assets of working with InfraWorks 360 is the idea that you can work with different file formats. So in reference to time, under data sources, you clearly can see there's different models or file formats that I can bring in with InfraWorks. So whether it's point cloud, whether it's LandXML, whether it's a Revit model, whether it's a civil 3D drawing, whether it's the IMX file, a SketchUp model, I can bring all that in with Civil 3D, with InfraWorks 360. Sorry about that. So one of the things that we want to take a look at is I want to kind of see how I can create a road that continues from this intersection, comes up the right-of-way, and goes across the highway. So something really simple. All I'm going to do is under my road design for roadways, I'm just going to create a design road. So something pretty straightforward. So again, the idea of the existing context. So I'm going to do street sidewalks with lamps. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick right there. And then the first thing you'll notice is that there's a speed down here in reference to miles per hour. So anything that I do in reference to creating a road design in reference to InfraWorks 360, it's using AASHTO standards. So I'm just going to type in 20, and I'm just going to pick that point right there. So it automatically puts in my AASHTO standard for a 20-mile road in InfraWorks. So I'm using AASHTO standards as I'm laying out roads here. So I'll pick this point, and then I'll come across the highway because I want to tie into this road over here. So something quick and simple. So I'll double pick and in that point there. So one of the things, AASHTO standards, so something pretty simple and quick. But what has it done thus far? So it's grabbed the elevation data from my existing ground. It's targeted a 6 to 8% grade in reference to the length of that road. And then you have some other geometry that you can utilize. So if I pick on geometry, I can put in extra lanes, I can do roadside grading, I can change the style if I wanted to. So the first thing that I want to do is, because I've laid this on the existing ground, one of the things that's very unique that a civil engineer needs to be able to do is kind of get a concept of what that looks like in profile view. So if I look up, there's my profile. So if I pick on my PI here, you clearly can see, if I pick on my PI right here, I can raise up that road. So again, the context of the existing environment. What does that look like when I'm referencing the existing ground? So clearly you can see I could do some roadside grading there if I wanted to, but what I want to be able to do is we talked about roadway, and I can change the style and grades if I wanted to. One of the things that I want to be able to do is I want to right click and I'm going to select add a bridge. So I'm going to pick 2 points because that train needs to get through that point. So I'm just going to select add a bridge. So something as simple as that for you bridge engineers that may be on the webcast. You know, how long does it take to do a bridge concept? And not only from that concept, data. So not only a precast concrete bridge, but we can also create and convert that to a steel bridge. So once I update this in a second, so now I have a steel plate bridge. So let me just move this up just a little bit. So if I pick on this, one of the other things that we want to be able to do, there's my road. If I pick on my bridge, I can right click and I can pull quantities out of that. So there's my concrete and steel quantities, but I can go right back and I can select precast. And of course my steel quantities are going to change dramatically, right? Because we're no longer using steel. So one of the other things that we want to be able to take a look at is I can show an envelope in reference to the height of my bridge. So right now, that's at 16. If I wanted to change that, I can put that at 35. Right click and say update my vertical profile. And then my bridge concept changes. So clearly I have a lot of flexibility in reference to my bridge work. So I'm going to come back and put that at 25. So something really quick. And then if I zoom in, I'm going to right click and say update vertical profile, and you'll see the grading change again. So something quick and simple. Then I'm going to move along because we need to address the road coming across the highway. So I'm going to leave this data card open, and I'm just going to pick on my road and right click, and I'm going to select add a bridge. And then for my bridge over here, we'll pull this to this point. So something straight and simple. So now I have a bridge over my highway. So I'm just going to move this over just a little bit so we can get a better perspective. These are just not CAD objects. Okay, so these are actually actual design parameters. So if I pick on it, I can actually tie in to my ASHTO type for my bridge girders. So if I wanted to get even more detailed, I can go in and start laying out and designing for my girders. Okay, so a lot of functionality in reference to your bridge modeler. So one of the things I want to be able to do, if I pick on that, I can just drag that over. So a lot of flexibility. So I changed the location there. And then you can see I have some small little arrows here. We'll just rotate that a little bit. Clearly, there are still issues with my girders here. So one of the things we want to be able to do also, if I right click, let me hit escape. Let me zoom out a little bit. So if I pick that girder there, I'm going to change this now to steel plate. So we're going to change this to steel plate. So just a little bit of functionality in terms of its dynamic interoperability. So again, my steel in here, I have a number of piers. I'm going to change this to 4 piers. So that takes a second. So now I have 4 piers there. So I'm going to pick this pier here. I'm going to pick this one here, and I'm going to pick this one here, and I'm just going to delete them. So one of the things we want to take a look at is look at my steel for my bridge now. Everything dynamically updates based upon ASHTO standards and my bridge design. Okay, so a lot of functionality in reference to working with InfraWorks 360. So again, a lot of functionality with bridge design. So I'm just going to move over a little bit. One of the things I want to be able to do also, if I look at specifically creating a coverage area. So here I'm just going to come in and I'm just going to create a small coverage area. So a coverage area with a gravel border. So I can pick on this area here. And again, being able to create and lay out data. So I'm going to pick this area because I'm going to leave some grading on the side there. I'm just going to double pick. So I can create a simple coverage area that I want to pull in. I can create trees and added data with that coverage area. So if I pick on that coverage area, you can see that it's kind of draped along the surface. But if I wanted to, I could right click and say shape terrain, and then the dark area shows fill, the lighted area shows cut over there. So if I wanted to grade that flat out, I could grade that flat out. I could give it a specific elevation if I wanted to. So I could create sort of this building pad if I wanted to. So I'm going to pick on a couple of these trees because they're in the way. And I can have trees automatically come in. So those of you out there who may be architects, we'll just pick on that. And let me do that. So those of you out there who are architects and want to bring in buildings, we can create buildings on the fly really quickly for quick concept proposals. So we'll just erase that, and we'll pick that one, and we'll pick that one, and we'll just erase it. So what I want to be able to do is, you know, again, we talked about the different file formats that we can bring in. So if I wanted to, I'm just going to right click, and I'm just going to go to my desktop. I'm going to go to Windows Explorer, something straightforward and simple. I have some 3D models that I want to be able to pull in. So something as simple as a plaza, I can bring in the actual model. So whether it's SketchUp, whether it's Revit, I can bring in that actual model just by dragging and dropping. So what it's going to do is it's going to bring in that model. So up here at the top, it's bringing in a model. This will take a second. And then this 3D model, if I look at it down here, based upon the coordinate system, I can bring in that model, or I can just place it. So I can say this is a building that I want to bring in, and I'm just going to go interactive placing. So it's a little big there, but we're going to address that. So I'm just going to double pick on it. And then I'm going to select close and refresh. And again, the idea is not so much as, you know, the design and layout. The ideal is really about the concept. So if I pick on that, and we'll just bring this down a little bit because I can shrink it as much as I want, and I can bring it in real time. So if I pick on that, let me move this over just a little bit here, and we have plenty of time that I'm going to address some things here. So we'll move this over, and then we'll move this up, and then we'll rotate this, and then we'll pull this down a little bit, and then we'll pull this over. And we'll just move this over just a little bit more. Yeah, bring this over. And then just drag that over a little bit. And move this over here, and you kind of get the idea of what you can create in reference to different sites. So I'm going to move this just along here. So we'll pick on that one more time here. We'll just drag that out. And then we'll move this up a little bit. So again, it's a concept of what the site would look like. You know, there's a lot of tools in reference to what we want to be able to do. So as an example, now I want to bring in a Revit model. So if I want to bring in a Revit model, I can just go in and select Revit. I can come in under my models. Come back. And we're okay with time. We're going to push over a little bit, but that's okay. So I want to bring in a Revit model. And come back. Well, maybe I lost my Revit model. Okay. So let me just check one more place here. And again, remember, we can just drag and drop if we wanted to. So I have some options in reference to bringing in a Revit model. So I'll just pull it. I'll drag it right in. And it says this feature requires internet. That's going to be okay. So again, in the context of what the site would look like if we did no design work. So I'm going to double pick on my Revit model here. And once that comes up, and this will take a second. We'll bring that right back in. Link files, custom texture. Okay, so that's okay. So let's try this one more time. Okay. So as that's configuring, I didn't notice any questions, but we also looked at the roadway design. We also looked at the bridge design. There's another feature in reference to drainage. So I'm going to use something really straightforward and simple. So I'm going to create a design road. So something straightforward. We're just going to do road and green space. And I'm going to put it down here specifically to kind of show drainage. So I'm just going to double pick on it. And again, it's just something real basic and simple. And you can see the road has come in. And if I pick on that road, I can right click and say add a culvert. So when I select add a culvert, it's basically running analysis in the cloud. Once this catches up. So there's a drainage module, there's a bridge module, and then there's a road module. And what I'm going to do is, while that's running in the background, I'm also going to generate from this. I'm going to pick my start point and my end point, and then I'm going to hit enter because I want to analyze that region. So what it's going to run in the background is it's going to run an analysis in reference to my watershed. So this takes a second. And then, as you clearly can see, there's some cloud credits and what the grid spacing and the stream threshold is in reference to the drainage. It's preparing the data. And this usually takes, depending on the size of your watershed area, 2 to 3 minutes. And it says it didn't complete. It's saying it did not contain a watershed. Okay, so the other, if I pick on my road, I can also add a drainage network. So when I select add a drainage network, if we look at my road here, and this will take a second. We'll do something with, so the drainage network works in reference to gravity. So I'm going to put a roll with a little depth in there. And as you can see on my road here, you can see my storm network has been created for that road. So we're just going to zoom out a little bit. And then for purposes of visualization, we can come right here in our drainage network and I can change my surface opacity. So then when I zoom in, you can see that it's created a drainage network for me. So you can see my culvert inlets. If I zoom way in here, and you can see some sun and shadow over there, but here's my drainage network for my road. So the beauty of working with this in reference to this drainage network and this Civil 3D and this road from InfraWorks is I can push this data to Civil 3D. So this data from Civil 3D creates plan and profile sheets. So the data that I'm creating, again, we start out with a concept from existing ground, aerial photography, buildings, road data, and push it straight into Civil 3D by creating sheets. Not only that, you also have road optimization. So in the background of my road that I built, I created a road, and if we come in, I got my file here. I can run that profile optimization, and then it sends me a report of that road that I sent out. So for those of you who are doing long-range estimates, it prints me a report out of the cost, mass haul, earthworks, a hauling scheme, cut and fill calculations for volumes. So it spits out a report specifically to that road and its best optimization. So a lot of flexibility in terms of just starting out with a quick concept in reference to InfraWorks. So we'll go back, something real simple. We'll go back here and we'll change that back to normal. And then we do have the ability to create, because we want to be able to create this story in terms of what we created here. So on my storyboard, I'm going to right click. I'm going to delete this storyboard. And there's my drainage structures for my bridge. So I'm just going to create a quick storyboard. And this is straight from a concept. So I'll pick that design road. It creates a storyboard. And again, it's about the ability to create this visualization of what the site would look like, what perspective in terms of coming across that road and going across the highway. You can see my drainage structures there. So something plain and simple that doesn't require a lot of time and effort. Plain and simple, again, that doesn't require a lot of time and effort. So now if I zoom out a little bit, for those of you who are architects, now we come into looking at visual effects, shadow analysis. So if I came in, and changed, the time of day specific to the time of day or the year in reference to working with InfraWorks, maybe I could say, well, what does the shadows look like at a specific time and day of the year? Let's change the date. What does that, let's create a video so we can kind of display, and simulate what this would be. So even on my storyboard, I can output this out to a video, so an MP, a WMV, or an MP4. So we can push that data out quickly and readily make it available to anyone. And then also up at the top here, we talked about being able to publish and allow users to access that data. So quickly, I'm just going to close this. So we'll close that, and then down here at the bottom, remember the model that I created. I have a default group, and it has a quick model. Here's that view for model, and then we'll address any questions. And the last part that I want to show you, so it just takes a couple seconds to build this model in terms of what you're going to get. So it's checking the database, making sure I have the right version of InfraWorks 360. So it's built this little model for me. So there's my data source imagery, performing post download cleanup. And it's going to bring in roads. It's going to bring in aerial photography. It's going to bring in GIS topo data. So this will take a second here. Well, maybe more than a second. So again, drainage design, bridge design, road design, bringing in Revit models, bringing in SketchUp models, bringing in shape files for measuring, bringing in MicroStation Bentley files, the whole gamut of file formats that you can bring in, bringing in Navisworks files, collectively bringing all these files in as one model. So how long does it take to create a quick concept in aerial photography of 110 square miles? So those are the things that you want to take a look at in reference to working with the idea of InfraWorks 360. So, yes, it's brought in 2D data and also 3D data. It's brought in buildings, it's brought in assets, it's brought in streams, it's brought in highways. So if I hold my cursor over that highway, that should be 85, right? If I hold my cursor over here, that's Buford Highway. A lot of functionality is brought in buildings. So if we zoom in here, just take a quick look. One of the things I want to be able to do is I'm going to pick on this road and right click and select edit. Then I'm going to right click and say convert to a design road. So I'm going to convert that to a design road. So there's my design road. It's grabbed the elevations. It's grabbed the grade range. One of the things that I want to be able to do is if I pick on this, I want to get a profile of that. So I'm just doing this from scratch. I also want to be able to create another design road. So I'm going to create another design road. And we'll just say this 2-lane with a left turn. Pick here, and we'll pick here, and then we'll bring that around and double pick right there. So something simple, but the point that I want to get across is what happens when two design roads come together. So if we just zoom in a little bit, you can see that point. Now, if I pick up my point of intersection here, and if I drag that down to that design road there, just as an example, just a little bit more. We'll put it right there. So again, dynamic updating. So it's created me an intersection with a left turn lane. Let me zoom back out here. I'm trying to save the screen space. But the beauty of working with these roads is, well, how do I know what type of vehicle can actually travel through this intersection? So if I pick on the intersection, it brings me up this card palette here in reference to my intersection. So as engineers, architects, we need to know what kind of vehicles can actually pass through intersections and around buildings. So right now it's a passenger vehicle. Let's change that to an SU-40 truck. So now you can clearly see how dynamically updating, and if I wanted to, I can widen and change my curve radiuses based upon, and my curve tapers based upon AASHTO standards. So again, from concept to real world design. Okay, something to think about. And then if I go back, again, let me try this idea with this culvert again. Let's pick that point right there. So this takes a second. And as you can see, the culvert palette has come up. And then it's using the true engineering in reference to Manning. There's a culvert there. And then it puts me in a culvert here. Okay? And you can see head, water, and velocity. And the beauty of working with this culvert, if I pick on my culvert once this catches back up, the beauty of working with my culvert is I can analyze this culvert. Clearly you can see over here the inlet configuration. If I change my barrels or my inlet configuration, that's going to change what happens with my headwater and depth, my velocity. If I change what happens with my barrels for my culvert, now that flow is way too fast. So I'm going to put in 2 barrels. I want to slow that velocity down. So now, if I put in 2 barrels, you can see that slowed that velocity dramatically. Okay? So just a lot of flexibility in reference to, and I'm just going to delete that out. And again, the ideal that I want to get across is really, how long does it take to do a concept of a road or a building in reference to working with CAD data or working with Bentley data or working with any data? How long does it take to do that? I mean, if I did a simple road like this in CAD and Civil 3D, how long does it take for me to right-click on this and say, add a drainage network? Pretty straightforward. If I zoom to that over there. So add a bridge, add culverts. How long does it take to do that? Using regular CAD. So one of the things that InfraWorks 360 allows you to do is, for one, design in reference to watershed management, drainage design, road design, bridge design. Bringing in building asset is only a part of it. But when we think about working with a project, we need to start thinking about BIM in terms of the life cycle of a project. Because the life cycle of a project may consist of multiple products. But InfraWorks addresses that. So things to keep in mind. So we'll take on questions here. Let me see. Oops. Let me bring that back up. Okay. So, Ed, do we have any questions?
We do. We have one question. Is there a way to not see through the existing ground when you are underground?
Is there a way to not see through the existing ground? I can't see through it like that. I changed the opacity and it allows me to see through it. So if I change the opacity, I'll come back. So when I do surface opacity, then it allows me to see through the ground. So if I had drainage structures in there, I would be able to see those. You can brighten and lighten, specific, I can do terrain statistics or surface opacity. I can also do surface layers where I can cut off all the surface layers if I wanted to. So if I wanted to, I can come in here and cut off all the surface layers. So if I wanted to, I can just cut off the surface layers. So a lot of flexibility in terms of doing that. I could also run I can also run a analysis of my surface. So you can run surface analysis also. I'm similar to what you can do in Civil 3D. Clearly it has ties to Civil 3D. More questions?
Yes. How to keep the tooltip label on at all time?
The tooltip label? You mean when you hold your mouse over a cursor? If you have InfraWorks 360 and that is not working, I have to check on that because that should be working all the time.
And we have a last question. Can you add vehicles to the list?
Yes. So one of the things that you can do with InfraWorks 360 in the vehicle palette, you will be able to do that. That's coming. But specifically, if I go to my style palette, model, there's vehicles. So I can put in any of these as a vehicle in InfraWorks, but you can create a vehicle in that palette. There is some customization that you have to do because those vehicles reference AASHTO standards. So one of the things that will be coming soon in InfraWorks 360, if you are familiar with Autodesk vehicle tracking, there is a library over 1,800 vehicles that you have access to. Some of that functionality will be soon coming to InfraWorks 360.
We have another question, Ken. Can InfraWorks 360 have moving cars in the proposal?
That is coming soon. So right now there's a plan to do simulation in reference to those of you who may possibly be on the InfraWorks beta testing, you know that that is coming very soon. Simulation for vehicles in InfraWorks. Autodesk acquired a company that does vehicle simulation, traffic simulation, and they're going to be implementing that soon for traffic analysis. In fact, if you go on Autodesk Labs, there is a preview of that on Autodesk Labs. So it's in preview right now, so it's coming, but it's under. The verbiage talks about it under InfraWorks 360, but it is in Autodesk Labs currently right now.
Another question, Ken. Can you add text to a building?
You can add text to a building, but you have to add the text to the building with a style. There's not a just create text like CAD, but you can go into a building and add you can edit that style and then you can add text to that. So you can bring in like blocks to kind of add text to that. So you can do that also.
Looks like we have one more. In visual effects, can you add specific lights and not just a generic timeline study?
So right now it doesn't have light and shadow analysis. That it really just has the ability to kind of show the default that's in there. But again, with some customization, it can be done. So specifically, if you look at some of the programs that Revit use in terms of site light analysis, it's not similar to that. So, but with customization, that can be added in.
Can staging be done in a proposal layout?
Yes. So really, what you really have is you have the ability to create proposals. So if you wanted to do it in specific phases, so let's say I created this road in phase 1, and then I wanted to change the direction of that in phase 2, and then if I wanted to come back to it, InfraWorks creates a copy of it and puts it in a different proposal for you. So you could do that in terms of stages.
What about scripting?
Yes, you have scripting also. So you do have the ability to run JavaScripts. Any more questions there? I see. Best place for resources? USGS. If you went to USGS, you can bring in your own areas. You can grab. Again, it's more of a meticulous, you going in to USGS and saying, I want to define the area for the areas, I want to grab shape files and data, so you can do that. Really, once you grab that data, whether it's shape files or Esri or aerial data, that data can be dragged and dropped into InfraWorks. So if I was creating a new model here, new model, so I'm just going to call this test 2. I'm just going to select OK. So if I came in, let's say I had some Esri files. So I had some Esri files. I'm going to come back and let's say I had these aerial photos. I just grabbed these off the web, just picked on here and drag them right in here. And it says not configured. And basically I'll say ground imagery. This is aerial. So I just type in British National Grid. Yeah, let's use British National Grid. Raster images. Close and refresh. Let me just drag and drop them in there. The beauty of working with this is if it has a coordinate and projection file, it will project that on the fly. Well, this takes hopefully not 3 minutes, but just being ability to drag and drop data straight from folders into InfraWorks 360 allows you to do that also. So there's those aerials, and those aerials just come in as 2D objects. You know, the beauty of working with it is once I bring in an actual surface, You know, so it just brings an aerial in 2D. I mean, how long does that take you to do that in CAD? And then if I zoom out far enough, you can see I'm not in the U.S., I'm over in Great Britain. Okay? So if I drag and drop, you know, these Esri, now I've got two different, I got JPEGs, and now I got these Esri files, so I just drag and drop them right in there. And this is going to be British National Grid. This is going to be terrain. Say close and refresh. I'm bringing that data. Now I'll just drape that data in reference to aerial and topo. So a lot of functionality. It's just really, again, how do we get this idea across to stakeholders in reference to data, that we create these quick concepts? How do we know what a site's going to look like if we don't design it first? InfraWorks allows us to create these imaginative visualizations so we can say, this is what the site will look like. These are the things that we want to take into consideration. These are the perspectives that it will look like. So those are the kind of answers that you want at a really quick turnover without doing a lot of work specific to design, because we know concepts change all the time. So just some quick stuff, you know. And again, anything from SketchUp you can pull in to InfraWorks 360. Anything from Esri you can pull in. Any aerial data, any point cloud data, land XML files, Bentley DGM models, Revit, IMX files, and clearly CAD data. So, again, I want to thank everyone for attending the webcast. If you have further questions, you can get in touch with Ed. Ed, did you have more?
No, we appreciate everybody's time. And again, if you need anything more in detail, or if you want us to come to your office or show it to other employees, you know, just contact us, and we'll schedule a time that's convenient for you.
Thanks again.
Thanks for joining us, and we hope you found this webinar informative and help you to your business. Thank you so much.